Welcome into this Monday morning edition of Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, JP Acosta coming to you as always. We are, a week and a half away here, 10 days away from night one of the NFL draft. But we're going to go a little deeper than night one. I feel like we haven't gone too deep into the weeds on later prospects just yet in this draft. But I wanted to give some of our favorite fits. Some of these are round one, but a lot of these are post round one fits in this draft class, player to team that we need to see happen. I tried to not do some of the ones that I've said already. Like I've said, D'Angelo Ponce to the Jets is just, I think it's going to happen. It has to happen. It was like last year, Darian Porter, the Iowa State corner, he was just going to be a Pete Carroll pick. Like he was going to be a Raider. That was one where just like before the draft, you just know some fits like that. That to me is D'Angelo Ponce to Aaron Glenn this year. So I didn't do that one, but we have a bunch of others. We did 5 apiece. We'll start with you, JP. We did some first rounders. Yours is a first rounder, but we'll start with it because I love this one so much. It was in my latest 3-round mock draft actually as well.
So one of my favorite prospect to team fits is KC Concepcion, Texas A&M wide receiver to the Carolina Panthers. And the reason I said this is because the Panthers have they spent a lot of money on their defense in free agency. I don't want to say they fixed their issues because you can never truly solve those problems up front, but spending a lot of money at linebacker and edge makes me think that they're not going to go defensive line or linebacker in the first round of the NFL draft. But what they need on offense is speed. When you look at this offense from last season, although it was very fun towards the end, they were just kind of slow. Tedero McMillan is sort of a 4-5 sort of glider. Jalen Coker's more of a power forward playing a wide receiver for them. And the speed that they can trust is Jimmy Horn, who is maybe like 170 pounds soaking wet. KC Concepcion gives them some easy separation, some easy verticality, and he helps in the return game. So I don't know if he falls this far, but at 19, I'd be very hard-pressed to go beyond Concepcion because of how well he fits and makes everybody else better in that offense.
Yes, in my final rankings, I ended up with KC Concepcion as wide receiver 1. Now, I like Jordan Tyson a little bit better, but just the injuries, I had to bump him down in my board just because of the fact that he's still not testing. Concepcion's ability to separate, it is what the Panthers need. They have some great contested catch wide receivers. They have some great guys with great ball skills. They don't have a guy who can go run a go ball and think that he'll get the job done consistently. They just don't right now. Now, the only thing giving me pause about this fit, and it is 2 different regimes now in terms of drafting, but 3 straight wide receivers in round 1 if you draft KC Concepcion. I don't believe that's happened since the 03 to 05 Detroit Lions. Matt Miller, everyone remembers. I actually forgot how crazy it was in terms of the draft capital they used in 3 straight. It was the number 2 overall pick, the number 7 overall pick, and the number 10 overall pick for Charles Rogers, Roy Williams, and Mike Williams. And then 2 years later, they used the number 2 overall pick on Calvin Johnson. So 5 years, 4 top 10 picks at wide receiver. That was tough times for Lions fans, but they ultimately got a good one at the end. The first 3, though, not so much.
Yeah, I think when it comes to drafting receivers 3 straight in the first round, Xavier Legette was a back end of round 1 player who probably shouldn't have been a round 1 pick. And it also goes back into he has speed, but you can't trust him on the field. Yeah. So I wonder if in this pivotal year for this team to find out who Bryce Young is and whether you can give him an extension, you got to go get him as many tools that he can trust. And in the NFC South, where, they just won a division going 8-9 and needing the Falcons and Saints to be bad and in the last game of the season, anything can happen. So go turn this offense into a superpower with 3 great receivers and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think they've done a fairly good job of kind of ticking off the biggest needs of this team to where I don't want to call this a luxury pick. You still need this, but you could just go chase a talent. You don't need to be we have to get a DT. We have to get an OT. They can just chase where the board leads them. And if it leads them to a wide receiver like KC Concepcion, I'd be happy as heck. I know their analytics guy, Eric Eager, would be happy as heck too, because, well, wide receivers are getting paid for a reason. Their ability to elevate offenses you see week in and week out in the NFL. All right, my guy, we're sticking at wide receiver here. And this fits a little, we'll see if it happens. I don't know if this team's going to invest draft capital in this position, but the Bengals and Brenen Thompson Jr., the Mississippi State wide receiver, I love this fit. I love getting another speed weapon in that offense. Now, they tried a couple of years ago with, Jermaine Burton, the Alabama wide receiver, to get some more explosiveness. He was a third rounder. Obviously, he spent more time in the casino here in Cincy than he did on the practice field. No longer Cincinnati Bengal. Brenen Thompson, I don't think you have to worry about that. This is a hardworking cat. He's really transformed his game from early on in his career to now his past year at Mississippi State. And his verticality just adds, it just makes everyone's life easier there in that offense when you have a guy that teams really have to worry about. The teams really have to account for 4.26 speed. I think it will just be a cherry on top of what already is a dominant offense. It wouldn't come with much draft capital. I think their third rounder, which is pick 72, more than easily gets the job done for this.
And I think with Brenen Thompson, it makes a lot of sense because, like you said, they have tried to invest in the third receiver that can be the vertical element in this offense, even beyond Jermaine Burton. Andre Yoshivas was supposed to be that guy for them. Has sort of been a fine depth piece, but never really stepped into that role. But Brenen Thompson is the fastest player in this draft class, and I think he would thrive in Cincinnati off the attention that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins get. And because he's not that big, you don't have to play him out wide. You can exclusively play him in the slot because the other two are on ball, like boundary receivers. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I do wonder if they invest in the receiver spot, given how many holes they still have on defense. But if you just want to add some nitro boost to this offense, I do think Brenen Thompson might be a really, really good option for them.
The good news is if you don't pick him at 72, 110, I mean, you have guys like Avieon Thomas in this draft class, Eric Rivers. There's a lot of tuned up, undersized wideouts. If I'm the Bengals, I'm leaving this draft class with one of them. I want one guy with real deal speed to be on my football team when it's all said and done from this. All right, there's a couple of our fits. We're going to take a quick break. We got 4 more apiece to go right after this.
Bread is in the building. Chris Weidman.
Dean Thomas. Are you ready? Oh boy, this one is going to be crazy.
All right, we're going to stick at wide receiver, JP. You got another one for us. Who is it?
Yeah, in the perfect world, this guy, I feel like he's going to be going beyond this before this pick, but the San Francisco 49ers and Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr. I think this fit makes a lot of sense because when you look at what Omar Cooper Jr. brings to an NFL offense and brings to the field as a receiver, it's the contact balance and the play strength for a guy who's 6 feet, 205 pounds. He's so hard to tackle because he has a lower center of gravity. And I do think if you go back and watch 2024 before Mendoza got to Indiana, I do think there are some nice reps of him winning on the outside, although that's not really his game. The 49ers just signed Mike Evans, so I don't know if this is their biggest priority, but it still should be considering that their depth is still very, very bad. And Mike Evans is coming off a season where he missed a lot of time due to injury. Ricky Pearsall has missed a lot of time due to injury. Jawan Jennings may or may not even be a 49er moving forward. So, I mean, he's still a free agent. So I think Omar Cooper Jr. adds some physicality. He adds some Deebo Samuel-ness. Not to say that he and Deebo Samuel are the exact same player, but he adds that kind of that contact physicality, the play strength. But I think he does more of the real receiver stuff than Samuel did during his time as a 49er. It just makes a lot of sense in this version of the 49ers offense.
Yeah, I think Cooper compared to the rest of the, I've kind of called there's like a tier 5 first rounders that I see, which is Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, KC Concepcion, and then Cooper. What he has that better than all those other guys is he's just a little more rugged. I mean, he has He's built kind of like a running back. Now, came in 199, but like presents bigger than that. He can go over the middle of the field. He's super tough after the catch. Like that ability, like you said, I think it actually gets him drafted higher than that, because that is, for NFL offenses, it just gets more important to be able to take those hits over the middle of the field at the next level. And he obviously showed that on tape this past year at Indiana. But that fit is pretty much every single mock, that's his floor for me. Because I'm like, hey, Omar Cooper Jr. is on the board there. That one's easy. You don't have to think about that one if you're the San Francisco 49ers. My one, we're going to round 2 here. Anthony Hill Jr., to me, one of the most intriguing players in this draft class, because he is so smooth an athlete, the Texas linebacker, to the Tampa Bay Bucks, where, they're picking 46 overall. I think that's about the range he comes off the board. You obviously had one of the worst linebacker positions in the NFL. Unfortunately, Levante David's kind of like that. That was the rope had run dry at this point for him. Incredible career, but like they need to find his replacement. They brought in Alex Anzalone, but I think you also would ideally want to replace Servassier Dennis if you could in this draft. And to me, he's such a moldable athlete in terms of pure athletic traits. Obviously, Sonny Styles is kind of in his own realm, but any other draft class, we would be like, this guy's special. And even compared to Styles, I think he's a little bit more fluid in how he moves. He's a little bit more looser in terms of his lower half and being able to flip his hips and things like that. Not to say Styles is like bad, but like Hill is just graceful as an athlete. Now his ability to read and react, his ability to play in space is still, in terms of like as a tackler, still very much up in the air. But if anyone in this draft class, I want to mold their traits into some special, it is him. The guy has crazy, crazy high end ability, and he goes to a place I think that would maximize that athleticism in Tampa Bay.
And I think because he is still a work in progress when it comes to his eyes, I think that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, is like the dude's a really good athlete, but his vision is everywhere and not in a good way. I think you're going to be able to get him later down the board. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a top of round 2 because of how deep this linebacker class is. He might fall into round 3, maybe round 4, but I do think when you look at what Anthony Hill is right now, big, strong, fast, like that's what Todd Bowles needs in his linebackers. Like when you think about the mugged up fronts, when you think about all the different hats that the linebackers wear, I think you just give him a piece in the middle of that defense to say, look, you guys worry on everything else. I'm going to focus on getting this guy to be a quality starter as fast as possible, because again, I don't know how much time Todd Bowles has as head coach of the Buccaneers, but this would be a very Todd Bowles pick when it comes to the physicality and the athleticism he looks for in his linebackers.
I'll just say this. You said round 4. If Trevin Wallace can go 72 overall, there's no way Anthony Hill falls past it. Trevin Wallace was like Anthony Hill, but even like scarier sort of eyes. And like we've seen that in the NFL, right? We've talked about the Panthers linebacker position, but like if he can go 72 just based off of athlete, I think Anthony Hill Jr. has a good chance of going at least that high. But we'll see. I like that fit there. All right, what's your next fit?
My next one is San Diego State corner Chris Johnson to the Miami Dolphins. And I love this pick because with Jeff Hafley coming in as defensive coordinator, they're going to play a lot of too high, and they're going to ask their corners to be physical at the line of scrimmage. That's when this Packers defense is at their best. When they're playing a lot of cover 2, they're switching it up. They're playing a lot of inverted cover 2. And you and I have talked about Chris Johnson, how he's sort of built to be the perfect press corner, because he has the ability to react and be fluid in his hips, but also has the arm length to disrupt guys and jam guys at the line of scrimmage. And that's where I think he's at his best. When you watch him at San Diego State, I love his vision in zone coverage. That's like some of his best plays. He has a couple of pick sixes in his career. Like some of his best plays are in zone coverage where he's able to break on the ball with great speed and quickness. And I think he's a really physical tackler. The physicality of Chris Johnson makes me think like this is a perfect Jeff Hafley corner, because with the Dolphins and where they are in and what division they're in, with the Bills, with the Patriots, with the Jets, who are probably going to run the ball a lot. Like, you're going to have to ask your corners to grow up a little bit and be actually in the run fit. So I want a guy who's physical. I want a guy who's going to get involved in the run game. And I think Chris Johnson is the perfect guy for that.
I think it'd be really cool if they left round one with Mansour Delane and Chris Johnson. I mean, like, truly, you have a cornerback room that's set. Like that those are two just all around high floor, high ceiling too type of corners that Jeff Hathley could do a lot with a duo like that. I think the Miami Dolphins are a very interesting team to follow in this year's draft because they have so many needs. It's like there is everywhere on the board. And that's why I always advocate when you have, when every place is open, just attack the strong positions. And when we ranked positions the other day, cornerback was the second strongest position in this draft, according to that, in my opinion. Like, I think there is high-end talent, there's depth. Like, if you're drafting a corner, chances are you're getting a guy higher or you're getting a good value, because that's just the nature of drafting deep positions in the NFL draft. Not everyone's going to attack them still. So because of that, I think the Dolphins are in a great spot to revamp this secondary. I'm going to stay in the secondary. This is one I've talked about a bunch. We don't have to hamper on it, but Avieon Terrell to the Chiefs. Seems like every time that pick 29 rolls around, I'm like, book it. Yep, Avieon Terrell. He's a Chief. The 4.64, we'll see what that does for him, because Kamari last year ran a 4.65. He still came off the board top of round 2. I thought Terrell's tape was a little bit better than last year's. I think we both agree on that. I think his tape is just awesome. Now, it could be pick 40. The Chiefs have 2 picks in that range, 29 and 40. But I want to see Avieon Terrell in a Chiefs uniform by the end of this draft.
I think the reason that this fit works so well is because of how similar he is to Trent McDuffie and what McDuffie was for the Chiefs. Sort of a matchup piece where you can play him at nickel, you can play him at outside, but the thing that stood out the most is their ability to match whatever personnel that offense would throw at them, because Trent McDuffie was able to be out there. And I think Avieon Terrell, I understand he ran 4.640, maybe. Like, he ran a 4.640 and he said he was hurt. I saw the tape. He is so much faster than that on tape. He plays with a sense of urgency, and I love his football IQ. When we talk about like guys who know ball, Avieon Terrell knows ball. I think he plays with urgency. He plays strong through the catch point. Although he does, like, there are times where he's going to get dunked on because he's 5'11" and going up against like LSU tight end Trey'Dez Green, who was like 6'7". Like, yeah, he's going to lose that matchup. But I do think he's a guy that you can play against slot receivers. You can have him on the outside. I love his fluidity. I love the ability to change directions. And I think for the Chiefs, because their cornerback room is so thin right now, I think just having a guy like Terrell who can wear multiple hats in that room makes so much sense as they try and rebuild sort of, I'm not going to say like full rebuild, but I say competitively rebuild like their entire defense.
Corners right now for the Chiefs, starting corners: Noah Williams, third rounder from last year; Christian Fulton, and Cater Kohu came over, Darth Cater from Miami, to play the slot. So it's not the drastic need, I'll say, that you have to address it round 1 if they think they got other value elsewhere. I think you can wait on it, but that's not what they were sending out last year, right? Like, you're going to struggle to have the defensive success they've had in recent years with that cornerback group, in my opinion. All right, let's take a quick break. We got 2 more apiece, 2 more perfect fits to go through right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
You got a Packers one, JP, and I do love it. And I think if this is pick 52, would not be surprised. Probably the favorite to be pick 52, in my opinion, at this point in time.
We are going to manifest this for you and for the Packers. It is Domonique Orange, big citrus, nose tackle from the Iowa State Cyclones. It just makes too much sense here with the Packers needing some size and some physicality to play nose tackle, especially as Jonathan Gannon switches them from a 4-man to a 5-man front. They need somebody who can actually play nose tackle. And I like to think of nose tackles as sort of the connective tissue for everybody else on the defensive line in the front seven. Their ability to hold up double teams and their ability to force offenses away from the run game has such a big impact on today's NFL. You allow for guys like Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, you allow for those guys to be more one gap, like get upfield as quick as possible because you have Domonique Orange sitting there as sort of the just not even like a gap penetrator. He's just holding up double teams. He's allowing Edgerrin Cooper to play a little freely. He's allowing Zaire Franklin to play without being taken on by guards. But where he also helps you win is if you're worried about his pass rush, you can just play him on early downs. If he's able to get you to 2nd and 12 or 3rd and 13, that's a win. You can play him in those scenarios because he's already helping you make a negative impact on the offense. I'm fine with taking him off the field for passing downs because he's already gotten the offense into 3rd and long situations. But I do think Domonique Orange at 52 is one of my let's make it happen if he's there kind of picks.
I do think it's Orange, Miller, Lee Hunter are your Kristen Miller, the Georgia DT, Lee Hunter, the Texas Tech DT. That's those are your probably 3 most likely picks. 52. I think they are for sure addressing nose tackle, especially in this class that has a bunch of them. I think they're for sure addressing that one early to make sure that what happened down the stretch last year does not happen again. All right, mine, Ravens. I have Kansas State center Sam Hecht as just the ideal fit to replace Tyler Linderbaum. I think there are some, if you really want the Linderbaum skill set, you can go down the board and get a Logan Jones from Iowa, obviously, who's super athletic, super on the move, but you're going to give up a lot in pass protection. But I think Hecht is a great mover, now obviously not as good as Tyler Linderbaum, but a so much better pass protector than Logan Jones already, and just a plug and play day one starter. Now, in this class, it might take somewhat premium draft capital. Ravens have picked 45, and then I believe that's it on day 2 for them. So it would be 80 as well. 45 and 80 on my board. He's kind of right in between that. So I'm not sure which one you end up taking him with. Do you wait till 80? He'd probably be off the board at that point. But I think given how big of a need it is to address that interior offensive line, would not surprise me if it's pick 45.
And I think Hecht in this center class is sort of a fascinating player because I think this center class has some really nice prospects. I think a guy like Connor Lew from Auburn also makes sense here. But Hecht provides the most help you win now and also to grow into a good player, a quality player down the line. I think the ability he's experienced. First of all, he has played a lot of games for Kansas State, but I do think he has the ability to reach, and especially in that offense where wide zone is going to be the key to unlocking this offense with Declan Doyle, especially Derrick Henry as your running back, who's more of a wide zone type of runner. But I think Sam Hecht has the ability to reach guys. He has the ability to get to the second level quickly. But I think, like you said, what separates him is you can actually leave him alone in pass protection. You can actually let him go and play in pass protection. He can be a winner. That's something that stood out when he was at the Senior Bowl. I was oh wow, this guy is actually handling a lot of the really talented defensive tackles that showed up in Mobile. So I like Sam Hecht, and I think that he'd be a great pick for the Ravens here. And it again, you follow the center bloodlines. Kansas State's produced some quality centers in the last couple of years, just the Iowa connection with Logan Jones. Just go draft one of those guys because they're more likely to pan out than not.
100%. K-State is crazy how many offensive linemen they've produced at that school over the years. All right, Uno Mas, what is our last one here?
My last one, and it's sort of one but also two. Ole Miss De'Zhaun Stribling, wide receiver to the Indianapolis Colts. And the reason I like this so much is because I've talked about how I like comparing wide receiver groups to basketball starting fives and basketball rotations. Everybody has their role. Everybody has, like, you have the floor spacer, you have your star, sort of the engine. But where I think the player that gets underrated the most is the connective tissue. It's the Draymond Greens. It's the I Jeremy Bernard also fits into this area, but it's like the Shane Battier for the 2013 Miami Heat. Like, they don't do anything super spectacularly, but the little things that they do without the football helps make the team so much better. And I think De'Zhaun Stribling from Ole Miss fits perfectly for what the Colts need. First of all, the Colts' depth at receiver is very thin, past Alec Pierce and past Josh Downs. But with losing Michael Pittman, they lose a bigger receiver who can do the dirty work. That allows for Alec Pierce to go be the vertical element of the offense. That allows for Josh Downs to be sort of at their best. Josh Downs was their third down, like, he was their answer for man coverage. And it reminds me also of, like, how in soccer, when you have these midfielders who connect the defense and offense and allow your attackers to play as well as they want to. You allow for Alec Pierce to be sort of your set piece guy that you do throw-ins or free kicks to, and he's going to go up and get it. You allow for Josh Downs to be on the wing and isolate against overmatched fullbacks. But where you have De'Zhaun Stribling is he is so good at being the in-between guy. He's a strong blocker. Ole Miss had him doing a lot of stuff in the backfield as a lead blocker on toss plays. He can win over the middle of the field, strong after the catch. I don't think he's like super like shifty when it comes to like lateral agility, but he's straight line fast. I think he can do the dirty work, and it just fits what the Colts need at this point with their receiver group.
Okay, so Colts have picks 47, 78, 113. Which one of those do we think is the Stribling fit?
I think in a perfect world, it's 113, but I think 78 is probably going to be where they get him because I think he is a fast riser in this draft class because of that ability to do the dirty work and be sort of the connective tissue. I'm realizing that those are my favorite type of receivers in the NFL. Like, I've long said, like, Chris Godwin is one of my favorite receivers ever because he just does everything well. It's not that he's overwhelming at anything, but he does all the little things well. And De'Zhaun Stribling does the little things well. And I think he, at around like 78, if they don't want to spend like 45 on Jeremy Bernard, who is sort of a similar player, but I think is going to go a little higher, I think Stribling right there at 78 or 113 would be a really nice fit.
We shall see. Chris Ballard has historically talked about and been one of the traits-ier searching GMs. Guys like Alec Pierce have hit in that mold. So we shall see, because Stribling, 4.36, he had some of the best testing numbers of any wide receiver in this draft class. Yeah, I don't think he falls to 113 with those after that combine that he put up. Another guy who won't fall to 113 after his combine, Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers. The perfect fit for him, in my opinion, Denver Broncos. I want to see what Sean Payton kind of magic he can work with another athletic tight end and an athletic tight end that used to play quarterback. We all remember what happened at the end of his tenure with, why am I blanking on the BYU quarterback? Taysom Hill. And how he just went completely over the top for a few years there in the most clown show thing I've ever seen at the NFL level. But that's Sean Payton. He does crazy stuff. So if you give him an athletic tight end like Eli Stowers, guy around 4.51, 45.5-inch vertical, who's still growing into the tight end position, who can throw, we are going to have plays dreamed up left and right. You're going to get a crazy packages for this guy. I think for the Denver Broncos, pick 62, Stowers is on the board. Stowers is a Bronco.
And I think it makes even more sense because Sean Payton has talked about the need for the Joker role in this offense. It's been like Broncos country, like buzzword, like trying to find the Joker in that offense. They try with Evan Ingram and it didn't work. Eli Stowers, you could say, is like a turbo version of what Evan Ingram is currently. Not Evan Ingram as a prospect, but what he is right now. And I think because of how much they want to have those option routes built in for their tight end. Like that was the thing that helped like sort of tie the offense together in the quick game. I think Stowers can do that immediately right now, but I do think because of what he does out wide, because of what he can be as sort of a trick play guy, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Broncos to go and draft him, like I said, at 62, because it ties everything together. Offenses need to have layers. Now with Jalen Waddle on the team, you have the explosive element, you have your in-between with Cortland Sutton, but now with Stowers, you sort of have the in-between / like yards after the catch type of guy. And I think that's where he's going to win. You're going to try and get him design touches as in the yards after catch situations, juke routes, option routes, try and get him isolated on overmatched linebackers, because that's where the offense needs to win a little bit more. So I really like this fit.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job, obviously, the Waddle trade of addressing what I thought was their biggest need on this team. But let's just push it to the edge, right? If you really want, you're chasing Super Bowl here, right? That's where you were last year. And unfortunately, the Bo Nix injury put a damper on that. But like, you want the one piece that puts you over the edge to a Super Bowl. And at pick 62, this could very easily be that piece, not only this year, but like in the years to come. So very curious to see where Stowers comes off the board. That's it. Those are our 5 favorite fits apiece in the 2026 NFL Draft. We'll be back Wednesday, noon Eastern, on CBS Sports Network, doing superlatives in this draft class. We got 5 superlatives apiece. You won't want to miss that one. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until then, keep pushing.